Tonight, Katrina, Sandy. More and more catastrophic weather has been punishing people across the globe. Is it because of global warming, or is our weather being manipulated? Should I be terrified?
Absolutely. Wow. We've got the wrong people making very important decisions that affect all of us on this planet.
I want to know what the hell is going on.
It's zombie storms. Seriously.
So these people who live in Windsor are getting this crazy sound. That sounds like the apocalypse.
It was like the whole house was vibrating.
No one can seem to locate the source of it. Clearly, there is something going on here.
The sound builds as it grows.
Let's get out of here. Mother Nature has been kicking the crap out of this planet lately. Earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, and tornadoes. Many people attribute these disasters to global warming, but some people claim that something else may be going on, that many of these disasters may have been caused by human manipulation. One of the methods of manipulation is something called chemtrails. And what are chemtrails? There are people that believe that the cloud-like trails you see in the sky behind jets are actually the government spraying evil chemicals. Before I get into how chemtrails supposedly control the weather, I need to find out if there's any truth to chemicals being sprayed. I'm gonna look into this by talking to Kristen Megan, a whistleblower who is formerly with the U.S. Air Force, and she claims that she's seen evidence that shows that this is exactly what's happening. Tell us about your experiences with chemtrails when you were with the Air Force.
Part of my job was to approve hazardous materials that were acquired on base. I started seeing large quantities of strontium, barium, and aluminum. This material came too frequent, too much, with no contractor name. This didn't make sense to me.
Did you ask anyone what all those chemicals are for?
I asked a couple of people that were my equal rank that I felt I could confide in, but it was more of the shut up and color, let's not question it. So I started to see memos come down saying, disregard certain things that are called chemtrails, that's just a theory. We're working on weather items here, weather studies. I realized this is the perfect setup. Basically, aircraft from all over the Air Force gets taken to this base and gets dismantled down to the last screw, put back together, and before the paint is put on, you have white aircraft with no markings flying around. So to me, all the pieces fell into place.
Is that a chemtrail?
No, that's not a chemtrail.
That's a contrail?
It's a contrail.
What is the difference between a contrail and a chemtrail? Contrails, they say, are the natural streams that occur behind jets that dissipate quickly, whereas chemtrails, they stay in the sky and become clouds. Now, has anybody identified one of these cargo aircrafts and found chemical containers inside? Has anybody found some sort of a distribution method, a spray nozzle, some sort of evidence to indicate that they're spraying things from planes?
It's very controlled. You cannot go on a flight line and take pictures. If you do, you will be on the ground with an M16 in your back.
I enjoyed talking to Kristen, but she's making some crazy claims. I believe that she saw those chemicals, but in my opinion, there's a gigantic leap between knowing these chemicals exist and proving that the government is spraying them from the skies. But if they are spraying them, how does it control the weather? Now, I have to admit that I am very skeptical when it comes to the idea of chemtrails, but if there's a man that's going to convince me, it's Michael Murphy. Michael is the go-to guy when it comes to chemtrails. He's made 2 documentaries on them. They've been seen by over 2 million people, and he claims that he has evidence that's going to convince me that chemtrails are real and that the government is using them to manipulate weather. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. So you believe that all these crisscrossing patterns in the sky, these are government planes that are spraying something that's trying to control the weather. It's been kept a secret from the American public. The pilots have kept their mouths shut, although they've flown thousands and thousands and thousands of flights, and that what they're doing is they're controlling the weather.
We proved it in the last film. Yeah, there's no question about it. In some days we get very few trails, but there are trails. Other days we get a complete canopy. We noticed that those were the days that occurred right before major storms came in. And that's when we contacted meteorologists and started looking at, is there a connection between chemtrails and the weather? Every scientist said, without question, you could build a cloud and create a storm front.
Does this make any sense? If you can build a storm front, can you manipulate the weather? Is there any proof?
When people have a difficult time grasping, I say, look at the weather.
Have you ever uncovered any evidence where you have direct government documentation?
They used it in a program called Project Popeye, where the U.S. government flooded out the Vietnamese Ho Chi Minh Trail. Those of us who have really studied this believe these are the most dangerous programs that this world has ever seen.
Cloud seeding is one thing, and it's been proven for a long time. It's a fact that they use cloud seeding to try to flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But there's a big difference between cloud seeding and actively spraying chemicals like aluminum and barium over our head on a daily basis. You know the statement, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence?
Absolutely.
This is obviously an extraordinary claim. Do you feel like you have an extraordinary amount of evidence to back up this claim?
I don't think it's an extraordinary claim.
Have you ever looked at the websites debunking your documentary?
Yeah.
One of them is saying that you guys tested sludge, not water, and that dirt is naturally 7% aluminum, and that's what you're finding.
Dirt does have naturally aluminum. It does have barium.
Well, what is sludge? It's
Maybe
water mixed with dirt. That's not evidence of anybody spraying anything.
You're buying
being
into
tested.
this, which
Listen,
is
man,
okay
they're not
with me.
buying. You're admitting. Do you admit that the ground itself contains levels of aluminum?
Of course. The ground was not mixed with water in there.
It says sludge.
What is sludge?
It's water mixed with ground. But
We
it's
can
just-
move on.
It seems like this has to be done again.
I will stand firm to this test. These sites have an agenda.
I mean, you have an agenda as well, right? Your agenda is to prove that it's a conspiracy. Their agenda is to prove that it's not. He could be just paranoid, right?
I wouldn't say that.
Do you have enough evidence to make a clear and definitive statement?
They're talking about controlling weather. I think the debate is over.
I'm not buying what Michael Murphy's selling. I'm even more skeptical now. I don't think he knows enough about the weather to be talking about this, so I'm gonna talk to a guy who does. His name is Scott Stevens. He's a meteorologist, and he is a chemtrail believer. First of all, man, thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it, and thanks for sharing whatever information you know about this. Now, as a meteorologist, what have you seen that's led you to believe that there's been some changes in the environment?
I first began to get the inkling that there was something up in the 90s. Because, Joe, forecasting weather is not that difficult. We've got Ophelia, which continues to intensify just off the east coast of Florida, and that's the big concern. There were storms that were not behaving as they should. Time after time, the guys in D.C. were issuing what they termed a low-confidence forecast. And I'm like, but we see it, we know how big it is, we know how much water is there. Why is it a low-confidence forecast? So that was something that was in the back of my head. And in the meantime, I was always an alternative media kind of guy. Being in mainstream, I knew how much news was not delivered.
So you have some videos to show me? You have some
pictures of odd cloud formations, and honestly, Joe, I probably would still be going, what's going on, if I hadn't set up time-lapse cameras.
Okay, beautiful. Let's check this stuff out. Let's go downstairs and check it out.
And this is a time-lapse that I captured a couple of years ago that should make it very clear to people kind of what these planes are doing. That's one trail. Boom, there's two, here's three, and another one will come up and hit that center point like that.
So when you see these crisscross patterns across the sky, what do you believe is happening?
See this square in the clouds with the ice crystals weeping off of this. So something is coming this way, and it is this square void.
But isn't that normal for clouds? Like random weird patterns?
But they're not random. Clouds are supposed to be round. Well, look at this square cloud out here over Billings, Montana. And here's a void. Exactly matches the shape and orientation of this cloud.
Huh.
That shouldn't happen. And this happens frequently.
You believe that there's some sort of technology that's controlling the weather?
Sure. They want to claim climate change or carbon dioxide, but that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't wash. So there has to be some other delta, some other data, some other change that they're not considering. And in my opinion, it's zombie storms. Seriously.
Are the world's governments manipulating the weather and creating huge zombie freak storms that come out of nowhere? Well, that is what meteorologist Scott Stevens believes. As a meteorologist, you believe that there's some sort of technology that's controlling the weather?
Yeah, we're having so many events that are beyond what is normal. Zombie storms are those things that just, say, rise up out of nowhere and that are these beasts. And in my opinion, it's global weather engineering, geoengineering, and it's been underway for every bit of 30 years. And that would explain why we have these droughts that are historic, why we have biblical floods in Australia.
So you firmly believe in this?
What I didn't know for the longest time is who is doing it to who. Russians against us against Chinese, you know, what is going on? And then I just kind of settled back that part of keeping the economic system going is consumption at higher prices.
I saw you had Nibiru on your desktop.
It exists.
Nibiru exists.
They're a benevolent race.
Nibiru. Ah, if you've never heard of it, Nibiru is supposedly a planet. On Nibiru live these aliens called the Anunnaki. And the story goes that they actually created human beings. If you're willing to believe that giant aliens from another planet created people, I guess chemtrails aren't such a big stretch after all. That's pretty nutty stuff, right?
So is communication via wireless.
It is.
We are incredible beings, Joe, incredible.
What can we do that we don't know about?
What can't we do? We've been kept from knowing that there are people from the stars. Once they're aware of this, people are going to then ask, what else do I need to know about? What else is there out there that they have not been forthright about? And that, I believe, is HAARP.
Really?
Seriously. HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
Uh-oh, here we go. HAARP. Every conspiracy theorist's ears just got a little bit bigger. For those of you who don't know what HAARP is, it's a top-secret military installation that some believe is being used to weaponize the weather. Do you feel like HAARP has anything to do with these weather modifications?
Just like if you're going to build a house, you don't use one tool. So I think there are multiple tools, and HAARP is one of them. Whether it's the primary one or not, I don't know.
The strange weather patterns, the zombie storms. Even though it's clear that something's going on, I'm not buying that chemtrails are causing all these things. I'm gonna talk to a man next. His name is Mick West, and he runs a debunking website where he clearly and scientifically analyzes all of the problems with the conspiracy theories behind chemtrails. Well, hello, Mick.
Hey, Joe.
Thanks for taking the time to educate us.
Yep.
Now, how did you get involved in this debunking of chemtrails?
I've always been interested in debunking stuff, and I thought, oh, well, this sounds like a fairly straightforward thing to debunk.
Right.
It's like the gateway drug of conspiracy theories. It's easy to get sucked into.
What a great way to describe it. Are chemtrails real?
No, it's impossible to make a mile-wide trail by spraying powder. All that happens when a plane flies through the air is that it triggers a cloud. It's not actually really making a cloud. The cloud was ready to happen anyway. Yeah, and you know, people point to clouds like this. So this is a picture that's 100 years old. Here's another one.
So these clouds have always existed. Do you think that it is possible that someone, for some reason, is spraying anything in the air?
Yeah, obviously, it's possible to spray things out of planes, but as the military doing it secretly, we're very, very hard because the planes are visible. You would be able to take high-resolution photographs of the planes and see if they were spraying anything.
This doesn't necessarily remove the possibility that the government or some nefarious group has sprayed something in the sky before. And there's most certainly evidence of cloud seeding.
Well, cloud seeding's been going on since the 50s.
Right.
Contrails that they call chemtrails appear in a clear blue sky, which is completely different from cloud seeding.
What are your thoughts on weather manipulation in the first place? What are your thoughts on, like, HAARP?
Well, there's really wild speculation about what HAARP could actually do. Like it could, like, you know, create earthquakes and change the weather. But that's just basically wild speculation. Just because there's these HAARP patterns that say, like, you can cause earthquakes, it doesn't mean anything.
The fears of HAARP, you feel, are just based on ignorance.
Yeah.
Mick West put the last nail in the chemtrail coffin for me. But although he doesn't believe that HAARP can be used to manipulate the weather, some very intelligent people have been studying this technology for decades, and they believe that there are far more sinister applications for this technology than are being reported. I'm gonna go talk to one of them right now. His name is Nick Begich. He is an Alaska native, and he's been studying HAARP for over 2 decades and writing books about the subjects. Some of the things that he has to say are very disturbing. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Tell me about HAARP. It's a array.
A field of antennas. Right
How
now,
many are in the field?
180.
180.
180, they're about 60 feet tall, and then they have a cross dipole. That's about 45 feet by 45 feet. And these are located not just in Alaska. Now we have them across Canada and Europe, and then the old transmitters in the former Soviet Union, and the Chinese talking about developing their own.
Should I be terrified?
Absolutely. In fact, one that we've been following for a number of years now, biggest radio frequency transmitter ever developed in the world. Designed initially by the Air Force and Navy. Now it's run by DARPA, which does some of the more dark side of military research for weapons applications.
Nick is now telling me that HAARP is being run by DARPA. They're the guys who invent all sorts of crazy weapons that scare the out of you when you go online. And now they have the power to manipulate the weather. What do you think they're doing?
What it's doing is it's literally heating up the ionosphere, which is about 30 miles above the Earth's surface, and then it pushes it out. So what happens then is the pressure systems in that region change, and jet streams moving in that area create a huge downstream effect, and one that cannot be accurately predicted.
So affecting something in one part of the world could potentially affect something on the other side.
Yes. So you may solve, say, a weather anomaly in one place and create 10 others that are uncontrollable. With electromagnetic waves, we could affect earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and weather. And to trigger an earthquake, you basically have energy tied up in a fault zone. But if you could create a resonance signal that allowed that energy to release at a specific point in time, at a specific place, you could then direct it as a weapon.
Wow. Can we just go back to horses and bows and arrows? Because I really think that this is out of our hands. So what Nick is saying is that HAARP is sending massive energy into the sky that's being reflected down at the Earth in pinpoint locations, and that it could actually be used to cause earthquakes.
HAARP is like the triggering mechanism for taking the energy within the Earth and manipulating it in specific ways for weapons applications. That's turning the Earth into a weapon.
Wow. Coming up.
HAARP can manipulate the weather and cause sound.
The sound grows. It kind of has that tsunami effect.
The whole house was vibrating.
Does our government possess the technology to create massive storms? Author Nick Begich believes that it does, and that the tool is HAARP. Tell me about HAARP. Should I be terrified?
HAARP is like the triggering mechanism for taking the energy within the Earth and manipulating it in specific ways for weapons applications. That's turning the Earth into a weapon. Wow. HAARP on a gross scale is really affecting geophysical systems, all right? And so there's sound associated with like a sonic event.
They can make some sort of a sky quake with HAARP.
Yeah, these things are being reported around the world right now.
Imagine a beautiful day. You're staring up at the sky, and then all of a sudden you hear what sounds like the end of the world. A podcast listener sent us this video of what a skyquake actually sounds like. Things are getting very interesting.
Fact is, we do need to have a debate about how HAARP is used and what are the applications. And in the Congress right now, we have no scientists to speak of. There's no one to evaluate in the closed, secret hearings that take place. They can't take notes, they can't take their staff, and they can't take experts. It's like putting kindergartners in a college setting and expecting them to figure it out. We've got the wrong people making very important decisions that affect all of us on this planet.
Wow, that is a huge, huge, huge statement. It almost seems like a piece of momentum or something with momentum that's impossible to slow down.
It is an issue to be concerned about, and bureaucracies are running the show.
That guy freaked me out. So we're gonna sit down and do a podcast with my buddy, Duncan Trussell, and explore the idea of weaponized weather.
Check, check, check.
We good?
Check.
Tell me when we're ready.
Anytime.
This episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast is all about weather modification and HAARP. HAARP has been blamed for a variety of different events, including skyquakes.
I think HARP is creepy. I've seen that array of antenna, and they're spooky looking. And also I heard that security at HARP is like Area 51 level security. So it wouldn't surprise me if it had something to do with controlling the weather.
Well, I posted a bunch of research about it at SYFY.com. Here's the other thing that people think HARP is responsible for. There's a thing in Windsor, Ontario, Canada called the Windsor hum. These poor people that live in this town that's across the river from Zug Island, which is near Detroit, they say that their houses rattle. They describe it as like this crazy sound echo thing going on, and no one can seem to locate the source of it. So we're gonna go there and see and investigate and talk to some of these people and find out if this holds up.
Yeah, you gotta go there and see. And if there's the sound, if you hear the sound, which I bet you won't.
Why do you bet I won't, man? Maybe I will.
It'll be interesting.
No doubt about it. A hum in the sky, noise from the clouds. What exactly is it? What if you couldn't sleep because the skies above your head were making a sound so powerful that it rattled your windows and shook the foundation of your house? That is what the people in Windsor, Ontario, Canada are having to deal with. So I'm gonna head to the belly of the beast and see if HARP has anything to do with this. Gary Gross is a local resident who's been recording these sounds, and he's spearheaded a campaign to try to get to the bottom of what is going on.
Look over there, that's downtown Detroit, Michigan. When we start kind of panning this side right here, we run into this industrialized area. Everything in the back that you see is Zug Island.
And there's supposedly some hum coming from Zug Island.
Absolutely.
Have you heard it?
Oh, absolutely, I've heard it. People are hearing the low bass pulsing sound, vroom, vroom.
Do you have any recordings of this?
8 terabytes of recordings.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah. The summer of 2011, it just hit an apex. Your windows are rattling, the floors are vibrating, and all you can hear is vroom, vroom. So the first thing we needed to do is to ask the question, is it coming from the ground or is it coming from the sky? Natural Resources Canada came in, they set up 3 seismometers, and through triangulation, what they found was that it was coming from the vicinity of Zug Island.
Things got so bad with the Windsor hum that the Canadian government sent in their earthquake squad to see if that was the cause of the hum or if the hum was actually causing earthquakes. What we wanted to know is if we could find out if HARP had anything to do with it.
That's got to be our #1 spot to at least start to examine.
People must be protesting and...
Absolutely.
What's the thought?
Sonia Skillings went to our local news outlet here. She basically went on record saying that it was bothering her. When I realized that someone else was experiencing the exact same thing I was, I started getting into the social media, and then I started asking people who else was affected. 1,300 people later, we don't know what they're doing that is making the noise.
If 1,300 people are reaching out for answers because of this noise, they must be experiencing something. And if Sonia Skillings was the first person to go on record about the Windsor hum, I've got to talk to her. Hi, Sonia. Joe. Nice to meet you. Hopefully, she can provide some insight. What does it sound like, if you could describe it?
It's different than just a background noise. It's that actual vroom, vroom. What's really strange is it's hard to define whether or not you're hearing it or feeling it.
It's very annoying, it's very loud, and no one has an answer for you. And so are your neighbors experiencing all the exact same effects?
For sure. We called police services, we called fire services. No one knew what it was. That's why it's such a mystery.
Yeah.
I wonder if it could be environmental. I'll throw it out there only because there's just no rhyme or reason for it. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Have you heard anybody say that it's HARP?
You never know.
I wonder. If HARP is creating the sounds that Sonia Skillings is talking about, I don't want to leave Windsor with only Gary Gross's recordings. I want to hear this thing for myself. So we're going to head to Zug Island and see what we can find. Now, Captain Tom may know these waters and how to get to Zug Island, but Bill Pizzoli, another local resident, is coming along for the ride. Have you heard the hum?
All the time.
What is it like?
It's like that whoom, whoom, whoom.
Everybody describes the same thing. They say whoom, whoom, whoom.
Yeah, it is a pulsating sound.
How often does it happen?
Usually 3-4 nights a week.
But it's definitely coming from Zug Island.
That's what my beliefs are. I mean,
Everybody says that.
If you were to say, oh, it's really noisy, let's go right to the source of it. It kind of has that tsunami effect. the sound builds as it grows.
That's got to be very, very annoying.
It is. I mean, some people that we've talked to have been in tears because of it.
And no one's doing anything about it.
Well, the government claims to be doing things about it. They have some studies going on. I don't know. Everybody's pointing the fingers. Well, it's their responsibility. I guess Zug Island is innocent until proven guilty, right? The island is here, so we're in the boat where the river will go right around, or this little channel goes all the way around. On the other side, where the mainland, there's like a little bridge. So my wife and I came just to kind of see how loud things were here. And then there was a security vehicle, and they escorted us down the street.
Oh. Captain Tom, can you get the bridge up so we can go down the channel?
Yeah, boy.
Thanks, sir.
I'm actually very surprised that they allow us to go through.
Why's that?
Yeah, I think they have a few things to hide. You hear the flames?
That sounds loud. This has obviously got to be a high security area.
There's people in towers that are watching our action here.
Whatever they're doing is making me feel uncomfortable. We're exploring the mystery that's been haunting the people of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. A sound that's been vibrating their homes and rattling their windows. All sources point to Zug Island as being the point where the sound emanates from. We're gonna go there and explore and see if we can possibly find some answers.
You hear the flames?
That sounds loud, man. Whatever they're doing, it's not good. Being here is making me feel uncomfortable. Can we shut off the boat, please? Okay, so the boat is off. And Frank here, our sound guy, is gonna see if he can hear the hum. So now, Bill, you don't hear the hum, do you?
A few minutes ago, I texted over to Canada to see if they could hear the hum, and she responded, mild hum right now. So whatever you hear here, when you go over to Canada, multiply that times 3.
But how is that possible?
It's the type of sound that it is.
Does that make sense, Frank? Possibly. You getting anything?
I'm not getting anything.
One thing I should point out is it smells terrible here. How would you describe the smell?
Sulfur. You got the water, the air, and the sound.
Well, man, I feel bad for you, and I feel bad for these people that live here, and I really feel bad for anybody who works there. Man, I smell it. I feel kind of gross. Maybe it's just my head, but I mean, I don't feel good. Let's get out of here, Tom. This place stinks. We didn't get a chance to hear the hum, but it's very obvious in talking to the people that live there that something's going on. We did get some audio recordings from Gary Gross, and I'm gonna bring these recordings to a man named Woody Norris. How are you, sir? Woody Norris is a true genius. He has over 80 patents. He's worked on projects for DARPA and the NSA, and he's been studying HAARP and skyquakes. When you talk to some folks about HAARP, they poo-poo it. They say, oh, no, doesn't have the capabilities of changing weather or creating skyquakes. Does HAARP have the capabilities that the conspiracy theories are attributing to it?
I think they're within the realm of possibility.
What exactly is a skyquake?
They're like the equivalent of a spectral sound that seemed to come from nowhere except above your head.
And are there any other potential explanations for what these people are calling skyquakes?
Well, the problem I have with there being other explanations is the amount of energy required to create that kind of sound is beyond some guy out in the woods. The most powerful radio stations in the United States, I think they're 50,000 watts. And the amount of power that HAARP puts out that is published is around 3 million watts. It'd be very difficult to duplicate enough power.
Now let's play the Windsor hum.
There you go. That's it. Notice on the left of the screen, the little mesa or the plateau. That's around 40 or 50 vibrations per second. That's very deep.
So that's
around
a very
100.
strange sound.
Yeah, it is.
What do you think that is? You think that's HAARP? That's what you think?
Yes, and let me explain why. When you see a bolt of lightning, it ionizes the air, and then when it's finished putting out light, the air molecules crash together and you get this super loud sound.
That's what that is.
Okay, now, if HAARP can manipulate the ionosphere, it can cause sound as a byproduct of what is happening.
Just recording it in the air.
Just coming out of the sky.
What about the potential of using HAARP to create earthquakes? Do you think that that's possible?
If you get sufficient intensity, probably.
Oh, wow. So to generate that kind of sound and to have it come from the sky, you know of no other method?
No.
I need to know if it's true now. Now we've created a huge problem. I need to know if this is true.
I question everything, but I keep an open mind.
All this stuff is very confusing, and it's really hard to figure out what the hell is going on. But I'm now gonna meet with a physicist named Brooks Agnew, who says that he can prove in a laboratory how HAARP can be used to manipulate weather. We'll see. How are you, man?
Hi, how are you?
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
What do you got going on here?
Well, we've built this 128 cubic foot cloud chamber. What we're gonna do is demonstrate how, on a small scale, how HAARP would move weather around.
How did you get involved with this stuff?
I invented a portion of this technology called ground probing radar back in the early 80s. I used it to explore for oil and gas. I had a unique situation occur up in Roseburg, Oregon. Went up there with the technology, which was basically a broadcast unit mounted on an ATV. Turned it on, and a couple seconds later, big boom. Just triggered an earthquake.
That created an earthquake?
Yeah. Joe, we were only using 30 watts.
That alerted you that something like HAARP, which is infinitely more powerful, could create earthquakes.
Yeah, it's about 20,000 times more powerful than what we were using. What we're using today is about 2 kilowatts, or about 1,000th the power of a normal HAARP antenna.
And how does this cloud chamber demonstrate what HAARP can do?
Well, what we have suspended above this is a mister. What we're gonna do is create a cold fog inside this chamber.
And what's going on down there?
This is a high voltage generator. What we're gonna do is couple that field with these 3 radiators, very similar to the way HAARP works. We'll demonstrate how HAARP would move weather around.
Okay, but before we go too far, there's someone else I'd like to join us.
Okay?
Come on in. Brooks Agnew is a physicist, and he claims that he can prove in a laboratory experiment that HAARP can be used to manipulate the weather. Before we go too far, there's someone else I'd like to join us. One look at Brooks Agnew's fish tank, and my meter is starting to go off. So I brought in Mick West to see if he could make some sense out of Brooks Agnew's contraption. Good to see you again. It's time for a believer and a skeptic to face off. You don't believe that HAARP has the ability to manipulate the weather?
I think basically I don't think it has enough power to manipulate the weather. It's like, tossing a hot rock into a river. It's not going to do very much to the river.
No basis in fact.
That has no basis in fact?
Exactly. All the atmosphere in between is affected by the HAARP.
Well, I think that's incorrect. I think what actually is being heated is just a portion of the ionosphere.
The phased array doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. Every ham operator on the planet disagrees with you.
Wait a minute. Who's right here? I'm too stupid to know which one of you guys is right. Okay, I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to keep an open mind. Maybe Brooks is gonna blow my mind.
So
Okay.
I'll go ahead and turn it on right now. Now, there are no fans, there are no heaters, nothing in there is getting hot at all. All that's happening now is a static charge is building up on those aluminum registers. What we should see is that that water vapor is going to start moving up through that light. And in about a minute and a half, virtually all this water vapor will disappear.
How long would it take for the water vapor to disappear organically without us?
Well, it might stay there for an hour by itself. All that water vapor is starting to come up, and it's almost all gone now. And you can see the turbulence directly around those registers.
I'm starting to see the turbulence.
And that's exactly the way HAARP works. And I'm not saying that you could create weather, but you could move the weather patterns where you wanted them to go.
You can manipulate it.
Right.
Mick, does that make sense to you that this would recreate or mimic the effects of HAARP?
No. So what it does is it creates an electrical field around the device, which will charge things around it.
This is just a simple rotating magnetic field. There's obviously high voltage in there. I'm just making a fair scientific case. And you can see that this is cool to the touch.
Right. Is that boxed
There's
though?
no heat.
Feels kind of warm in here.
That's warm.
This is hot.
That's hot.
It's warm.
That's pretty warm, man. It's very warm.
That's very warm.
Very, very warm.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's hot. That's actually annoying.
It's not what I would say is hot, but it's 80,
I wouldn't want that
80
on my balls. You'd be like, oh, this sucks. Right?
Yep.
This guy put a lot of effort into this, and it's obviously nonsense. Everything with his experiment was wrong. It's not radio waves, it's electricity, it generates heat.
It's almost certainly heating the water molecules.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, then your science really sucks. Brooks might be crazy, but HAARP is real. And we searched far and wide to try to talk to anybody that worked at HAARP. We only found one guy willing to talk to us, and he claims that he worked at HAARP and actually helped install HAARP arrays all over the world. Duncan and I are gonna sit down and Skype with him and ask him about the true nature of HAARP.
Anytime.
Billy Hayes has some very creepy allegations.
Cool.
So let's get him online here, get to the nitty-gritty.
Great.
He's in an undisclosed location. Hello, sir.
Hello, Joe.
All right, well, Mr. Hayes, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, how did you get involved in all this?
My father was into the construction end of some of the facilities, military facilities at Eglin Air Force Base. He got me a job while I was in high school of helping clean up the mess of the antennas. This was a massive radar system that is now part of HAARP. I was a small guy. They needed someone small enough to clean the antennas. We were trained in special ways to do things that we thought were right. We were told one thing while the guy that's sleeping next to us was told another thing. We were compartmentalized to the point that we couldn't even have conversations with each other, even though we were living together. We just didn't know where, we never knew the truth.
Now, when you say that you were told one thing and that other folks were told other things, what did they specifically tell you was going on with HAARP?
We were told that this was for the better of our nation, that we were soldiers, that this was for our family, for God and our country. We were lied to.
How many facilities do we have, and how many of them did you help install?
We went to over 240 installations around the world.
Can HAARP manipulate the weather? Do you think that Hurricane Sandy was intentionally caused by HAARP? What about Hurricane Katrina? What about some of these gigantic tornadoes?
You really want me to get into that? I don't think you want me to go there.
Yes. HAARP is still freaking me out. I don't know what it is, but Billy Hayes claims he knows exactly what HAARP is being used for and that he actually was one of the people that helped build HAARP installations all over the world. Can HAARP manipulate the weather?
You really want me to get into that? I don't think you want me to go there.
Yes.
Let's put it this way. 20 to 25% of the weather systems are manipulated.
Wow. 25%. That's a massive amount of damage, loss of life. That's incredible. That's a terrifying statement.
Same thing goes for earthquakes. They're capable of shaking loose the positions of where an earthquake is going to happen to make it happen when they want it to happen.
That's incredible.
We have damaged the ionosphere with HAARP. You and I are talking about what's happening here on Earth, but no one fails to comprehend what HAARP frequencies are capable of doing beyond our universe.
So other universes could be affected by HAARP?
We could be affecting our own sun. You understand, they want to be able to collect antimatter. The only way to store antimatter is in the magnetosphere.
So they want to store antimatter in the magnetosphere.
Exactamento.
HAARP beams are going out and damaging other universes, and they're also storing antimatter in the magnetosphere. Seems totally logical.
There's all sorts of weirdos that work around the HAARP.
I believe you. All right, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Watch out.
Okay. He said a lot of word salad.
Sure.
I don't know, man. There's so much conspiratorial, leaning.
But if HAARP is capable of causing earthquakes, tornadoes, what a great weapon that would be.
Yeah, I agree. That's not outside the realm of possibility. They would experiment on affecting weather. I don't know, man. Here's what I learned on my journey. What people are calling chemtrails are not the government spraying evil chemicals on you. They look like clouds because they are clouds. What you really should be concerned with is the fact that they're burning jet fuel over your head to the tune of 93,000 flights a day worldwide. If somebody came up to you and said, hey man, they're thinking about starting fires in the sky where they burn toxic fuel over our heads, you'd be like, oh, I'm cool with that, as long as I can get to Miami in 5 hours. Woo woo. The HAARP thing is a bit more confusing. It's terrifying when you're too dumb to know who's stupid. And unfortunately, that's where I find myself. I don't know who's correct. And the only people who really know are the people that are working at HAARP. And none of them are talking. And I wouldn't talk either. Just when the aliens come, you got some splaining to do. I'm scared.
Me too.
Cue the spooky music.